Inshallah, this is something to reflect. Nowadays we're coming towards the end of times and we see that around the world there's poverty everywhere. People are struggling. People can't even feed their families. People can't buy any Eid clothes for the youngsters. Right? So this waqia should give us a reflection. And it's a true waqia that took place. And it mentions here, a mother was severely beating her son. And the son was crying. A person in the neighborhood was observing. He was observing the shouts and cries were occurring from the house. The mother was beating her son. One day he said to her, "Why do you beat your son so much?" She said, "His father has left this world. He's passed away. I work in the houses and earn a few pennies with difficulty so that he would study and become something, and those our and my circumstances would improve. But he goes to the school late. His dress is always dirty. I've become fed up of him." The person came to know of the entire story. He went to the market the next day. He saw in the vegetable market that young child who was beaten by his mother. A day before, when he saw the child, he thought he was the same child who was beaten yesterday. He began to observe secretly what that child was doing. So from the vegetables which were being loaded onto a vehicle, some of the vegetables would drop down and he would then collect those vegetables. After collecting the vegetables, he would put them in his bag and would go and sit in the corner of the shop on the footpath and would sell them vegetables. The story is that as he reached the school, he arrived late again. The teacher said, "Stretch out your hand," and he was caned. He cried sore. The person said to the teacher out of sympathy, "Sir, why are you caning him?" He replied, "He comes late daily. I cane him daily and I beat him daily, but he comes late daily." Teacher says, is he a human or is he a donkey? These were the remarks that was given to this young child. He doesn't obey my advice, as he understood the entire story as to what it was. At that time, he said to the teacher, "Do one thing, I will explain something about him." The next day, his mother beat him again because he had gone to his home in his dirty clothes again. The person said to his mother, "Please do not beat him. Please listen to me. I want to tell you something." Then, when the child left the school in the morning, he said to his mother, "Come to such and such place and see what is happening." His mother was secretly observing what her son was doing. Then he phoned the teacher and called him, "Please come and see what the student is doing." Now both of them were present in their own places, secretly observing him. Now the third person was this person who was showing them. When the child was following the same routine, collecting the vegetables, keeping them in a bag, and then selling them, and the clothes getting dirty, again he reached the school late. The teacher was observing everything. He had seen the first time what was happening. He thought that the child is poor. As soon as the child reached the school, he left his bag on the bench in the classroom and went to the teacher and stretched out his hand to let him cane him. Instead of caning him, the teacher embraced him. He embraced the child and wept. He cried. In the meantime, that person who was sympathizing with that child also arrived. Then they asked, Son, tell us, what were you doing?" And then he related the whole story. Then he said, "My mother works in people's houses and manages our house. My mother's dress has become worn and torn now. I don't have much money to be able to buy her a dress. So my mother would properly dress up. Hence, I sell these vegetables to save money. And today that shopkeeper has given me the dress with which I will get the dress stitched for my mother. Soon, how will you pay for it? Son, how will you pay for it? I will sell the vegetables in the same way and earn money." If I can request the brothers to come closer, inshallah, fill in the gaps. so you can allow the other brothers to come in. I will sell the vegetables in the same way and earn money. I will continue what I'm doing and pay for the stitching and give my mother a beautiful dress so she can cover herself properly. Therefore, I get beating from my mother as well as my teacher. And this is my story, my dear Islam brothers. Sometimes we don't even realize how poor families manage their house. These are the stories of middle class, poor families. They are not the people who go out on the streets and beg. If we as Muslims give our zakat, our charity, our sadaqah fitr to those who are in need, especially on the day of Eid, I'm sure we will not see such suffering in the world right now. May Allah Almighty enable us to reflect in our state and to do self-rectification so that we don't waste our hard-earned money in useless things. For example, we have people who hire cars on the day of Eid. On latest cars, how much do they cost to hire? Around about 500 to 1,000 for a couple of days. Yeah, and if this money was given to charity, just imagine how many poor families you could feed on the day of Eid. Subhanallah, glory be to Allah Almighty. So my dear Islam brothers, moving forward, going back to the subject of Sadaqah Fitr, and this should be given before Eid Salah, inshallah. Now there's a wazifa for you to read on the day of Eid, inshallah. According to a narration, whoever recites Subhanallah wa bihamdihi 300 times on the day of Eid, and then sends its reward to the souls of all the deceased Muslims, thousands of nur will enter the grave of every Muslim, inshallah. When the reciter dies, 1,000 nur will enter his grave as well. And this can be recited on both Eids.